Hey, it's Thursday night. This is Jack Hammer. Next to me is my guest host, Jessie Naylor, and this is episode 36 of the Hammer and Nayls Show. How you doing tonight, Jessie?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm glad you came up with a witty name because on Twitter we just could not get it hammered out. Pun intended.
Right? It was, yeah, I don't know. I did see the one where it said, I think it was Jesse Hammer, and I was going to say, that's, I understand that I'm older, but I'm not Jesse's dad. No, come on. But yeah, so, a lot of fun stuff going on this week. I think, I don't know, something about a
Seems like a
quarterback.
quiet week to me, Jack. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, something about a quarterback uh, got left in Tennessee, or what was the situation there?
Yeah, it's something about a quarterback getting ran over by a reindeer. I don't know what's going on, but but yeah, nonetheless, very exciting week, right? I mean, we've got the thought. It looks like, I mean, unless something crazy happens, Trey's going to be making his second start. And you've got the Jimmy allegiances, you've got the Trey allegiances, and then you've got the people that are down the middle and just want the Niners to win. And it's made for a fun dynamic, to say the very least. So I'm excited to talk about it. I think that it's good because we get going back and forth on Twitter, but anytime we come here, people get to see like really where we're coming from. It's tough to do it in like 180 characters or what have you, but it is a lot of fun nonetheless.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely fun, and yeah, a lot of things going on this week around the quarterback situation. It's did Jimmy, what's going on with his thumb? Did he hurt it? Why wasn't he on the report after the game? That was the most interesting thing to me, was the fact that this didn't get discussed after the game. It wasn't even something that was brought up by Shanahan in the post game. So that tells me that Garoppolo hadn't told anybody on the team really what was going on. He might have been fidgeting with his thumb, but I don't think that, even though Shanahan said it um, on Monday that he knew that the injury was there, I don't think that he really did. Because if somebody on the 49ers knew that he had injured his thumb on Thursday night, I would have thought that would have come out on the post game injury report.
Yeah, and I'm sure that he made mention of it, right? Like it could have been as simple as like, hey, I think I jammed my thumb out there or whatever else, right? And Jimmy himself, truth be told, probably didn't even know how serious it was until he got home. Maybe he was home for the holidays, was there for a couple of days, like, man, this is, I've jammed my thumbs before, I've jammed my fingers. It doesn't feel like this, right? Something else is going on. And so then at that point, you talk to your team. When you're a high profile player, it's not just a matter of, okay, I go to the 49ers and we deal with it, especially when you're probably going to be on the market this next season. A lot of times you consult with your team. And that's what it sounds like happened in this scenario. Who knows for sure? But to me, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like, hey, I've got a sprained thumb. I'm getting it checked out. The 49ers come out and say, hey, he's got a sprained thumb. Everything should be good. We'll see how he is tomorrow. We'll test it. And then an hour later, his team, his agent, and those guys go to the press and say, well, it's a little bit more than just a base sprain, right? It's a grade 3, which is a complete tear, and with that is a chip bone. So that's the way it portrays that it came off to me.
Yeah, it wasn't even an hour, Jesse. That's what's so funny about it is we're on the conference call, Zoom, whatever it was. I don't remember what it was that day with Coach Shanahan, and we go through that. It finishes, and it's not even 5 minutes after that's done that Schefter breaks the news that it's a grade 3 sprain. Because we'd had that. It was probably maybe it was a little bit more than that, but it wasn't long, because I jumped on a call with Rob Shue shortly after, and reports start breaking right away. It was really interesting the way that whole thing went down, and now we are. It looks like you said, like it's going to be Trey Lance's second start for the 49ers. All signs point to that, since Garoppolo hasn't practiced. He didn't practice yesterday, didn't practice today. Uh, we won't get any official word until tomorrow, because Shanahan doesn't talk to the media on Thursday, and the coordinators don't give you any kind of update on the players. Uh, but it's going to be. I would feel fairly certain this is going to be Trey Lance's time, and that's brought with it some interesting back and forth amongst the group on 49er fans on the Twitterverse, and I think thought it'd be kind of fun to chat about that just a little bit here, because I
Yeah,
know
absolutely.
I'm just gonna say because I know that there's been I think the back and forth started with I was probably a little bit of an agitator on that one, in terms of uh, people asking for there to be patience with Trey Lance, and that was kind of what the start of it was.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to kind of get into my explanation of the patience and kind of what I mean by that, or because everybody's different, right? And I think you're right. I think it's like we definitely want Trey Lance. Somebody asked me this on my show. Was it Monday? No, Tuesday, something like that. It was Tommy Huxley. He asked me. He super chatted and said, "Hey, are you nervous or confident?" And I said a little bit of both, right? Like I'm nervous for the kid to make his start. I know that the Texans defense will force some turnovers. They've done it all season long in the passing game. And I don't know exactly how Shanahan's going to use him. I also think that there's going to be some getting used to with the players. Uh, for one, the receivers we already know completely different ball from him than Jimmy, right? Not
Mhm.
as pretty, much harder. So there's that. But then you've got the offensive line that they're not used to playing with a mobile quarterback like that, and we saw it last time. It there was a lot of holding penalties. Some were his fault, some were their fault. And so those things make me a little bit nervous. But then on the flip side of that is I'm also very confident in who he's eventually going to be, right? And so for me, I don't look at it as okay, well, if he doesn't come out and play amazing right away, that the kid's going to be a bust or he's not who we thought he was or what have you. It's just about being patient, and that's how I use it. That's how I use patience, right? We got to be patient with him. We don't know fully what to expect. I've got an idea. You asked me earlier, hey, what do you expect? And for me, my expectation is we see a pretty similar player to what we saw in Arizona. I think the offense itself can move the ball better, being that they've established the running game a little bit more and Devo's gotten more involved. Ayuk's not in the quote unquote doghouse and Kittle's playing. But as far as Lance goes, I've been a big proponent that he should be playing to learn and get better. So I'm sure you can get better by sitting, but the actual live bullets are ultimately going to give you the best look. And so I don't expect a lot of I don't expect a lot of differences as far as an individual goes. That's just me personally.
Sure, sure. And for me, when I saw the call for patience, and I'm seeing people talking about the need to be patient with them, for me, I understand where I understand that he's a rookie, and there is going to have to be a certain amount of patience. And obviously, we've had this discussion as far as the way that I look at the situation with him. We talked about this, I think, even before the season started, and that I'm going to be grading him as a quarterback in the NFL. And I'm going to look at him as a quarterback in the NFL. Even though the Jimmy Garoppolo's been around for 8 years, there are certain things that you need to be able to do. And when I see people talking about the need to be patient, a lot of it, again, it's mostly the Trey supporters and the people that have been harping on Garoppolo and getting on Garoppolo all throughout the season, right? And so I see that as more of a couple of different ways. You can look at it a couple of different ways. One of them is I'm not so confident that now that he's going to be playing, I'm not super confident that he's going to win. You know, because now he's getting thrown in there, and we're kind of getting down to that tough time of the year, right? And or the other one would be, you know, I don't want to be dealing. Every time he throws an incompletion, I don't want to hear people complaining about it or saying, "Ah, see, that's what Jimmy does," or whatever, right? Because that's what you're going to get. The people that have been all over Garoppolo, you're going to get that throughout the game. It's kind of like I think I might have said on Twitter or might have said whatever. If I didn't, this is the thought is if you watch, it's going to be funny watching the way that Twitter responds to this game because all the people that have been ripping on Jimmy Garoppolo at points throughout games, as I bang into my mic, which is now in front of me now. Thank you, Jessie, for giving me that. But all of the people that have been ripping on Jimmy throughout the game are going to be the ones that are somewhat. We'll see how they respond now that if it's Trey Lance that's doing it, and then you'll see the way that the Jimmy faithful or whatever you want to call them, how they start to rip Trey Lance, right, for doing the same, if they are doing the same kinds of things. And really my point to it is, hey, if you've been believing in Trey Lance from day one, or you've been calling for Trey Lance to play, if you don't believe that he's going to go out there and win this game on Sunday, then what have you been doing for the last 15 weeks, right? And the reason I say that is because we saw what he did in Arizona in week 5, and the situation he's walking into against Houston on Sunday is better. He's got better weapons around him. He's playing against a weaker opponent than Arizona was when he played them. And this game really sets up well for Trey Lance to come out and have a good game. And from an expectation standpoint, my expectations of Trey Lance are, I just want to see where he is now compared to where he was in week 5. Does he show some improvement? In week 5, there were some really good things that he did, and there were some things that he struggled with. Are some of those things that he struggled with going to be better now? Because that's what and it's not only me that that wants to see it. You're hearing about it throughout the 49ers organization. It's started to get leaked out last week before the Tennessee game that all of a sudden Lance had been doing better in practice. He'd been showing out in practice for the last whatever. And then you had Kyle Shanahan say on Monday that it's been the best 4 weeks of practice for him. You heard Fred Warner after the Atlanta game talking about how he's dicing him up at practice. And that came out without anybody even asking him about Trey Lance. It just came up with a question actually about Jimmy Garoppolo. Then you had Fred Warner again yesterday talking about how they're getting how he had a conversation with Trey Lance and he's improving. And then you also today had Trent Williams speaking on the growth that he's seen in Trey Lance. So the 49ers players are definitely some of them, at least the ones that are being talked to the most or vocal, definitely believe that this is going to be a positive for Trey Lance on Sunday.
Yeah, Laken Tomlinson as well. But I guess the other part of that is when I say temper expectations as well, to me it's on the whole team. Like everybody's just got this thought in their mind that the 49ers are a lock to make the playoffs, and that is anything but. So if they come out and they beat the Texans and then lose to the Rams and end up in a 3-way tie with Philly and the Saints, they don't make the playoffs. And I think that that's a real situation, regardless of whether Trey plays or whether Jimmy plays. It's the same thing that I've been saying since the beginning of the season. This team, no matter what, whether it's Jimmy or whether it's a rookie Trey Lance, has the worst quarterback in the division. And because of that, they're not going to win a Super Bowl. That's just the way that it is. And so playing Trey early on made a lot of sense to me because I felt like one thing that he can do is help the run game naturally because he runs the ball. And throughout the progression of the season, you would start to see that improvement. And even if it meant, and at this time, I thought the 49ers, by the way, would go 12-5. So I said, hey, even if it meant they were 10-7 instead of 12-5, and that's because Trey's taken his lumps throughout the season, that by the time they got to the playoffs, they would be a more formidable foe, in my opinion, with a full season behind Trey Lance and what he brings to the table than what they would be going into the playoffs with Jimmy G, even if their record was worse. Now, fast forward and looking at the 49ers being 8-7, I'm like, well, there are definitely games that I can point to where I'm like, I think Trey probably could have won this one or won that one. And so I felt like overall the record could still be the same. And the end result is they still would have made the playoffs. They still would make, maybe win one. That's at best. But a lot of that, like I said, is that's with a full season underneath them. So now coming in week 17, to expect that he's going to be at the level that I thought he would have been if he would have started at week 1 in week 17, that's just asinine. That's not going to happen. Like he hasn't had what I thought he needed the most, which was playtime. And so It's just an interesting dynamic. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's a group of people that are waiting, just waiting for Trey to fail so that guys like me can eat their words and whatever else. And then there's myself and many people that are like, God, I hope he plays great, so I can be like, I told you so, right? And so it's just a funny dynamic that the shoe is now on the other foot, and here we go. We're a few days probably from this happening, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and uh, that's partly why last night I was telling you, I said it, if you've been supporting Trey all along, now's the time. And if you really believe in him the way you believed in him, just go full on Jack Hammer on Mac Jones on this thing, and just tell everybody how good he's going to be, and just let it go. And then if he screws up, it's like, yeah, well, he screwed up, okay. But I mean, you just go out and I don't see him screwing up. I we'll get into the little bit about this game, and I don't think he's going to be. I don't think he's going to screw up. I think he's going to be fine. And I know that we had a little back and forth regarding my tweet last night about if you believed that he was going to lead you throughout the season and you're going to have the same record at this point that you had with Jimmy Garoppolo, why are you saying hold back now? And part of that is, think about it this way: we are where we are. They're not, we're never going to know the answer to that question, right? Even Takeo Spikes agreed with me today and asked the question, right, when he quote tweeted my tweet about the whole 8-7 thing with Garoppolo instead of Lance. So I like that one. That was pretty cool. But let's go back to I think week 2 in Philadelphia, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. Weren't you of the mindset that if Trey had played that game, the outcome would have been the same?
Yeah, I thought if he had played week 1,
Mm-hmm.
um, that they would have won week 1 and 2. And then I thought for sure, I really thought the 49ers were going to start 3-0. I didn't
Okay.
realize that they would be without everybody. But yes, going into that game, if he had started week 1, then week 2 they would have beaten Philadelphia. Yes.
Yeah, because I remember after the Philadelphia game, I thought that you were saying that was a game that the way that played out and the types of throws that Garoppolo was playing, Lance could have done those same things.
Oh no, I do want to say this. The one thing I did say was Garoppolo. I remember this specifically. I don't remember that per se, but I do remember this specifically. I do remember saying that Jimmy G bailed out Shanahan. Remember we were talking about clock management that game towards the end of the first half, and I said if Jimmy G doesn't make the best throw, one of the best throws I've ever seen him make towards the end of that, they're at best getting a field goal. I do remember talking about that
Yeah.
specifically, but yeah.
No. Yeah. There was. Yes, I know we had a back and forth on that, but whatever. I could have sworn that was a game that you said that Lance would have won. And my thought process of saying that is, I understand that he hasn't played the full season, but look at it in terms of this is going to be his second start. So it's not going to be coming up against a Philly team, which actually has proven to be better than we all thought they were. Even with losing some of their key guys, they've still are in a position to make the playoffs. But this is going to be his second start, and he's in a good position, I think, to go out there and perform well. He's now had a lot more practice underneath him, and if you were confident that he was going to beat Philadelphia, again, going back to the confidence thing, if you're confident that he was going to beat Philadelphia, you should be confident that he's going to go out and play well against a Houston team that isn't as good as Philadelphia. I know that Houston's got some really nice wins here in the last few weeks, but the game against Tennessee was a result of five turnovers by Tennessee. It was a 5-0 turnover margin in favor of Houston. The game against San Diego was a 3-0. If the 49ers just go out and play football and Trey Lance protects the football and plays the way that he played at North Dakota State in terms of not turning the ball over, the 49ers are going to walk out of Levi Stadium on Sunday with a victory of 10 to 15 points, in my opinion, with the way that this game sets up, because the 49ers are just a better team across the board than Houston is.
Yeah, I think they'll be able to run the ball at will. And I'm also on record for saying this, that whether Jimmy or Trey plays in this game, I do expect the 49ers to win. I think it's a game that they should win. It's week 18 that I'm not so sure. I know everybody's like, oh, well, Shanahan owns McVay. I don't think they're winning that game. I really don't. And it's going to depend on what the Saints and the Eagles do, but I just think that the worst case scenario is possibly setting up for the 49ers, that it's a 3-way tie and they're on the outside looking in. And I think that week 18, whether it's Trey or Jimmy, they lose that game. And so when I say, temper expectations, that's kind of what I mean is like, I don't like if he loses week 18 and they don't make the playoffs, Jimmy would have also. Like that's where I'm at with it. Like they're going to win or lose regardless. At this point is the way that I feel.
Okay. Let's jump over to this super chat real quick. Thank you, QMac, for the $5 donation. He says, "Do you think Lance will play up to par now that his team is behind him? Number 10 isn't a rookie, still making rookie mistakes. That's my issue with number 10."
Go ahead, Jack. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's going to. I've said it a couple of times on the show tonight, and I think I've even said it on Twitter, and I've been saying it for a while that when he gets his opportunity to play again, he's going to be fine. And when I say he's going to be fine, I don't mean it in terms of like, he's whatever, he's going to be okay. He's going to be good. He's going to do what he did in Arizona. If he does that again, the 49ers are going to win. They didn't lose that game, and Trent Williams said it on the podcast that everybody, I wrote an article about it today, and he said it there, and I saw it when I did the film review again on Tuesday night, and I'm sure you've seen it, but they didn't lose the game in Arizona because of Trey Lance. He didn't help them win it either with a couple of his mistakes, but they didn't lose it because of him. They lost it because of some other things that were taking place, and him being a rookie, and there's some things there that I hope that next time he's trying to score a touchdown at the goal line, he doesn't decide to take the defender on head on and instead tries to jump over him or get to the pylon, those kind of things. But they didn't lose because of him, and I think that he's going if everything that people are saying is true, he's going to be fine because he's going to be better than he was week 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is going to be fine, and I think that to me, like I said, individually, I think it's going to be pretty similar to what we saw versus Arizona, but everything around him's a little bit better. So for that, they're going to score more points. I just think that running game is going to be able to take over, and with him in there, he helps the running game just because it's 11 on 11. So yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be fine. As far as Jimmy, he's not a rookie and he makes rookie mistakes. Yes, he does, but at the same time, he also does some things that rookies just can't do. I will say this, and I've said it throughout the Twitter chats, and I've said it throughout shows throughout the year, is he and Trey are going to get things done differently. There are throws that Trey can make physically that Jimmy will just never be able to make. But right now, there are throws that Jimmy makes that Trey can't based off of anticipation. That's one thing that Jimmy does know, being in this offense for as long as he has and playing for as long as he has. He knows where to go with the ball. Now, it doesn't mean that he always gets it there, right? It doesn't mean that he's not throwing an interception, but he knows where he should go with the ball. Trey doesn't necessarily, and that will come with experience. That will come with playing time, and I do believe that he will eventually get there, but for different reasons. There are throws that one can make that the other can't, and vice versa.
Oh yeah, no, totally. They're different guys when it comes to that. You're gonna, and when you're talking about anticipation, some of there's a little bit of that. He'll get that part of it because he's going to learn how to throw. He'll learn. We've already seen him do it a little bit. He's going to get better at throwing the ball into windows and getting it there before the guy gets past the defender and things like that. The biggest difference between the two, there's two of them. One, he doesn't get the ball out of his hands as quick as Garoppolo for some of those quick in-breaking routes right over the middle. I think that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for him. Mm-hmm. And two, he tends to be more of an outside thrower, right? He doesn't in the past. Maybe I'm wrong because like I said, from what's being talked about as far as his performance in practice, people are saying Trent Williams is saying that he's not. He doesn't look like the same guy that we saw. The last time we saw Trey Lance was different from the guy that we're seeing now. That was actually something that George Kittle said today during his interview, was that he's made huge strides and improvements since we saw, the reporters last saw him during the summer, during camp. He's better in the pocket. So maybe he's going to be throwing those balls over the middle, getting the balls over the top of those linebackers and taking some of those throws that we saw him not want to take at North Dakota State, and he hasn't done here. So it'll be fun to see if that's how that plays out. And other than that, he does like to throw the ball away outside a little bit more often. He's, the 49ers run those over routes quite a bit. You see Garoppolo hit him. We saw Lance hit that in his performance when he was in Arizona. We see Jimmy Garoppolo hit those digs and those on the when they're running the I can't think of the concept right now, but they're running the vertical with the dig underneath
Mhm.
it, the
Yeah.
dagger routes, and
Yeah.
we've concepts, and we've seen Garoppolo be able to drill those in there, and we saw Lance do it too. Except for it was a really bad duck, but Sanu should catch that ball. So we know that he can see it. We know that he can make he's going to try to make the throws there. I'm looking forward to seeing it again on Sunday.
Yeah, me too. Me too. No matter what, I'm just excited because this is what I've wanted the whole season, right? So, regardless of what my thoughts are going into it, ultimately, I'm excited because this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been calling for. I've been very loud about it. So here we go. I get my wish, right?
There you that's why you got to buckle up, Jesse. You better buckle up on that Twitter. You're gonna get a lot of people coming at you. It's gonna be fun. Now you're gonna know what it's like
The
to be
mute
Jack.
button works really well.
Yeah, well, no, you got to leave it on because that way you make sure see all the fools that are talking about you. But also, you'll get to see what it's like to be Jack and talking about Mac Jones, and then he goes out and stinks it up against Buffalo. But Jamaican boy, thank you for the donation. That's nice. Would you rather watch Jimmy make rookie mistakes or Trey? Jimmy has been a bad. Jimmy has been a bad drug, and the 49ers keep overdosing on it. I gained so much knowledge from you both, and Jack, stop being intimidating. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, for me, like I say, for me, I've wanted Trey to play since the beginning, um, because I knew what Jimmy was, and Jimmy's done nothing to prove me any different, um, to tell me that he's not who I thought he was. So I've seen that. I've seen it play out. I knew what to expect, and here we are. So yeah, I'd much rather see Trey playing and growing for sure.
Yeah, and we disagree on that one because I'd rather see the 49ers play the best player, and if they feel like it's been Jimmy Garoppolo, I'd rather see Jimmy Garoppolo go out there. I don't think he's been playing nearly as bad as people want to say. I know Thursday night against Tennessee was a bad game, and he definitely deserves the blame on that for that loss, because it was on him. He gave up 17 points in that game, and so he needed to wear that. Uh, that being said, the 49ers were still tied at 17 in the fourth quarter. Yeah, it shouldn't have been there. The 49ers should have been up, but he still was able to figure out a way. That's what's funny. He hurts the thumb at the end of the first half. He actually was better in the second half other than the
Yeah,
interceptions. He had 2 interceptions. He played just as good in the second half as he did in the first. And I laugh about about them saying that the broken thumb was why he had that interception at the first play of the second half, because we can go back and watch Jimmy Garoppolo film from throughout 2021, and we can find that same play 5, 6, 7 times where he's throwing, has a guy coming over the middle, he overthrows him. And, there's been a number of times where it just hits the ground behind the receiver. We saw him do it against Minnesota early in the game on an airmail over Debo Samuel over the linebacker. And, luckily there were no safeties back there to pick it off. So yeah, I'm okay with Jimmy. I'm not a Jimmy hater. But at the same time, I am excited to see Trey play on Sunday. And like I've said already, I'm excited because I want to see if there's growth. I just want to see, because we haven't had a chance to watch him. I haven't had a chance to see him other than in warm-ups since end of August. It's early
yeah,
September.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. I mean, I don't want to get too far into it, but I definitely disagree. I think Jimmy's played pretty bad in 3 out of the last 4, personally.
yeah, we're running out of time here because we only got 25 minutes to go. And if we start down that road, we might have to, there might be
I'll see you on Twitter.
we'll see. We'll see how much time we have. Maybe we'll come back to that one. But
Yeah.
I want to get to this one too. Keneal Mason, thank you, Keneal, for the donation. He says, Jack and Jessie, legendary combo, Hammer Nayls. How about would Trey have to play in these 2 games to start over a healthy Jimmy in the playoffs?
I mean, I personally think that if they make the playoffs and he plays these next 2 games, that it's his team. I don't see them going back to Jimmy once Trey plays, unless it just looks awful and he's clearly not ready. He's not doing anything to help the team. And quite frankly, he's regressed somehow since that Arizona game. I think that's the only way. If he comes out and they beat the Texans, they lose to the Rams, and they still make the playoffs, I don't see Jimmy coming back. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't either. If they get to the playoffs and It's with Trey Lance coming up, and this game here, if he goes down into LA and wins in LA, and that's how they go into week one of the playoffs, it's going to be Trey Lance's team through the playoffs. I don't see Garoppolo all of a sudden coming back. I could be completely wrong, but it seemed to me like even after the Arizona game, Shanahan was ready to roll with Lance and into the Indianapolis game. If it hadn't been for the injured knee, we would have seen the quarterback switch be made at that point in the season. Um, I think and I know Garoppolo wasn't fully healthy in that game, but I think you would have seen that move being made earlier on.
I agree with you. Yep.
Yeah. As far as this week, just kind of taking a look at it, what do you think is going to be the outcome, or what are some of your keys this week against Houston?
Yeah, they have to run the ball, Jack. I mean, I know that we talked about it, but like this is one of those what you did against the Rams, what you did against Jacksonville. It's got to be that type of game. Houston will create or force turnovers in the passing game. We saw Herbert throw a couple picks last week. Herbert's a really good quarterback. So they will get out on you if you allow them to. However, they cannot stop the run worth a lick. And if Mitchell's back, which it sounds like he's going to be, and you've already got Jeff Wilson Jr., who to me looks all the way back. He looks like the player that he was, or what I thought he would be at the beginning of the season. I feel like he's completely healthy, got his burst back. So between those two, and then you add in Trey Lance, I mean, to me, I think you should easily get to 40 runs. I really do. Oh, and Debo. Don't forget about Debo. So between those guys, I just feel like they should be able to dominate, control the clock. Don't ask Trey Lance to do too much, right? You shouldn't try to win it on his arm, just like you shouldn't try to win it on Jimmy's arm. That's not what this team's about. Regardless of the quarterback, this is a run first team, and that's the way that they've got to look at it. Just mix in Trey to help keep things even, to help keep teams honest and their linebackers honest. And as long as you do that, you should win this game probably going away a little bit.
Yeah, I would like to see them come out with a plan similar to say against I know what you mentioned, the 40 runs. So that's like the Los Angeles plan, right? Where they come into this game and they say, we're going to do everything we need to do in order to get the 40 carries. In a way, I'd like to see them come out and kind of do like what they did against Cincinnati. It's come out and try to run the ball early. And if they struggle with it, then your passing plays come off of that, which are basically just extended handoffs. So that's what we get. That's how Garoppolo had 40 attempts or over 40 attempts against Cincinnati in that game, but a number of them were extended handoffs on first down. He was very good on first down that week, and a lot of that was because he had a couple of really nice downfield throws on first down, but for the most part they were just underneath play action roll out or quick screens out to the outside and things like that, stuff that worked perfect for Trey Lance. And so I want to see them get going, commit to the running game. Don't try to get fancy in this one. There's no reason. One of the things that makes me nervous is that Shanahan talked in the press conference about how teams have been able to get chunk plays and do things through the air on Houston. And so that makes me a little nervous that it's going to be a more of a passing attack than a running attack. But, they're coming into a game against a team that's given up 31st worst yards against on the ground. You got to come in, and your identity is to run the ball. You need to come in and you need to be able to run it even with Trey. And if those guys are sucking up on you, you don't need, take a shot on them early or whatever, but do it off of play action, do it off of your normal offense. Don't put the ball in Trey's hands as a running back 18 times or 16 times. I think they did it, what was it? 12 designed runs in that game against Arizona. Don't do that with him this time. Use your running backs. You're going to have a full crew there. It's funny in rewatching that game against Arizona, the one touchdown the 49ers did score in that game was a run by Deebo Samuel out of the backfield. They handed it to him. It's kind of one of the plays that they've run quite a bit. But how is he going to look with George Kittle? How is he going to look with all these running backs back there now? Brandon Ayuk was just coming out. That was like the one game that Brandon Ayuk wasn't in the doghouse for the 49ers, right? We're not going to, and I want to, and let's see how he plays because he's been much better. And Juwan Jennings has been better. So let's see how that group performs. And on defense, I think on the defensive side of the ball, we mostly were talking about quarterbacks, but on the defensive side of the ball, shut down the running game and get after the quarterback. Houston doesn't run the ball very well. I know they had a big day last Sunday, but they've only been over 100 yards as a team 3 times in 14 games or 15 games, whatever it's been. Shut down the run, get in, and get some pressure on Davis Mills, and you can take care of business that way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. I mean, it seems pretty simple, right? Now just go out there and make it happen.
It does. And the one thing that some folks brought up over here, and here it is from Luke. He says, "Why hasn't the special teams coordinator been replaced?" That's the one area that could cause some issues for the 49ers.
Yeah,
Their
for sure.
special teams have not been special at all this year.
Yeah, well, or they have been special, however you want to look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you consistently see these long kickoff returns. Mitch Wishnowsky, whatever's going on with his leg, and I know he's on COVID out right now. I don't know if I think he'll be activated by Sunday is the expectation. But yeah, the special teams, I think, could play a big role for the 49ers. That could be the area. If it's offensive, defense, the 49ers are the better team. Special teams, that's what cost the 49ers the game up in Seattle, was those 7 points that the special teams gave up. And you can also argue that the fumble on the opening kickoff of the second half, sticking them back there, hurt them pretty bad too. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out.
Luke got me. He says special teams have been especially bad. You know it. They have been terrible.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Really quick, because we do have some time, let's take about 5 minutes if we can before we get to our predictions for the game. I disagree with you on the Garoppolo piece. Let's go back to that. Might as well, right? We're here. Let's talk about the Garoppolo thing. But if we look over the last 4 games, go ahead and walk me through your issues with those games.
Okay, so let's just go. Let's go 3 back. Okay. The Seattle game, I don't think he played well, but I remember the Bengals game is just more fresh in my mind. It's more recent. So let's talk about that one specifically, right? Because we definitely disagree on that one, it sounds like. So for me, you watch him and it wasn't good. Like, they were gifted multiple opportunities to score with a short field, and that's how they came away with their points. Like, they weren't moving the ball particularly well when they weren't given a short field, right? So it's not like they were putting up a lot of points. I feel like Jimmy, he was just missing. There was a lot of open plays, if I remember specifically in that game, where he just wasn't finding where he should go. Now, here's what saves it, right? You've then got that heroic stance towards the end of the game, where some people called it 2 game-winning drives, what have you. And he looked good on both of those, minus the Jessie Bates should have been an interception, game over. But for the rest of that, I actually thought the throw to Kittle was a good throw. A lot of people didn't like that throw. The one that got him into field goal range. I actually thought it was a good throw personally.
Yeah, and then I agree with you on that. It could have been much slower.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So then in overtime, I thought he played really flawless. I'm going to give him credit for that. But here's the biggest issue I have. Okay, so one of the better throws he had in the game, in my opinion, was the out pattern to Ayuk in the end zone, where Ayuk wasn't able to come down with it with 2 feet in bounds, if you remember that play. Mm-hmm. I thought that was one of the better throws that he made. So it's not as if Jimmy can't hit an out pattern. It's that he can't do it with consistency outside the numbers. And one of the plays that I remember, with 1:55 in that game, they're up 7. I think it's 20-13, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
it's 20-13.
I'm interrupting you. You're going to the play where he didn't throw the out route to Samuel when he was open.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So he hits the I call it a bird route, whatever, but he hits Kittle underneath instead. Okay, a whip route, what have you. So he hits Kittle underneath. That was a 3rd down, 3rd and 10. Mm-hmm. And now they've got to punt the ball. Cincinnati goes down. They score. Now all the chaos ensues. And in my opinion, if he just hits Debo, none of that stuff happens. Like, that's it. Like, to me, in the NFL, that's about as open as you're going to get. You look at Debo coming out of that break. If it's an anticipation throw, first of all, one-on-one, it's man coverage. It's one-on-one. and you've got the DB playing off. You've got everything you want pre-snap that you should want to see.
Yeah.
Debo comes out of that break. He's got plenty of space. You hit him out of the break, you're good to go. And that game's most likely over. So it's like he puts the team in these bad situations and then climbs out of it. And everybody's like, oh, he's a hero. Look at Jimmy. No, man. It's like you could have avoided that whole thing, in my opinion.
Yeah. And that's a play. That's a play. If I'd have to go back and totally refresh my memory, but I believe that if we looked at that play, if I went back and looked at that play and compared it to the notes that I have, that's supposed to be a ball in which Debo Samuel would be the first option. He'd be the first read on that play. Mm-hmm. I believe, based on the way that play is drawn up, is he would be the first read. The only thing that I would say on that one, you're right. He was open. The ball should have gone to him. The only thing that I can think of, and as why he didn't, and it's making an excuse for him, but I don't know the answer for sure, is that maybe he was told to go to Kittle on this route. We don't want to take a chance with the ball right here. We just want a completion. We want to get the clock moving, keep it running to try to run the clock. That's the only thing that makes sense as to why he would have gone where he went with it instead. But you're right. Yeah. It was a bad play. And then the way that I disagree with you on that though is you're right. That is a ball that should have been completed to Debo. He probably should have got the first down. And then yes, a lot of stuff after that doesn't happen, right? That's part of the way that the things work. But in the way that you make the plays, and you kind of have every quarterback misses throws throughout the game. Doesn't matter who they are. We watched Pat Mahomes in the game against the Chargers a few weeks ago miss a wide receiver that was wide open in the end zone. Instead, he takes a check down on the left flat, and they bring it up on TV and everything too. It happens. And I agree with you. It's a bad miss. He now that the game's tied, though, gives him the chance to win. And then he's lucky that Nick Bosa got the sack in overtime, because that's what actually gives him the win. Because without the Nick Bosa sack, the 49ers don't even get the ball probably to score at the end of that game. So Garoppolo gets a ton of credit for the way that, in my opinion, he gets a ton of credit for the way that game went down. But he also got a lot of help from other people. And that's why I made sure to talk about the sack by Bosa at the end of that game to give him the credit that he deserves, because he did make a huge play that was a big part of the reason that they won the game. Because if he doesn't get that sack, 49ers don't win. Against Atlanta, I thought he played okay.
No? Oh, he played good. Yeah. No, he played really good in Atlanta. Yeah, that's why I say 3 out of the last 4. I thought Seattle, he wasn't so good, and then the Bengals, and then obviously Tennessee.
And then the Titans game was 3 throws, man. And you're right, though. The Titans game was 3 throws. It's the ball in the end zone in which he went to the right place. Coach even said that he went to the right place, but that ball needs to be thrown into the first row of the seats instead of to the guy that he throws it to, because he's not covered, and Kittle's not in a position to even try to get the body on him. It's the pass, the Juszczyk. That's a throw that we all killed Nick Mullins for missing last year, and we've seen Garoppolo miss it multiple times, including last year. After he made us come back, we missed it against the Rams last year in that game they won. But it was at the end of the game, so nobody paid attention to it. It was just an awful throw. You just can't, and then you kind of watch and you wait to see, at least myself, I'm like, come on, you got to hit that. And then I'm waiting to see how that position is going to end up. Because, if they can score a touchdown at that point, it's kind of like, well, shit, sorry.
You get over it.
You missed the throw, but you still scored the points. You kind of let it go at that point. But then, you get the bad offside face mask thing that you had with Trent Williams, and you end up having to settle for a punt. You lose the points there, and then you have the pick. So, he cost them 17 points in a game they lost by 3. So that's why he gets hammered. And I agree with you in the Tennessee game. For the most part, he had some good plays. He made whatever. He had some good plays. He had some bad plays, but his bad plays cost him the game, and that's what you have to go with at the end of it.
What's really ironic about that, and I'm sure that you've noticed it. And I remember specifically people asking me, do you think Jimmy makes this throw? And I said, yeah, of course he makes this throw. He's a professional quarterback. You realize that Juszczyk throw that he missed was literally the same route combo against the same coverage that Trey hit Debo in the second half against Seattle. Identical.
Was it the same? I thought it was different, but
no, it was the same. I promise you. Go back and watch. Just go back and watch it. But yes. Yeah.
So on that route against Seattle, it was Debo Samuel running kind of the little stutter and go.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and take a look at it, because I didn't agree with it when I saw somebody else say that, but I could be wrong. And even the pass that he threw there, it was a bad throw by Lance, but it's completely wide open. At least he gives him a chance to make the play, right? And that's the
Yeah.
same thing with Garoppolo. You look at it and it's like just give him a chance. If you, even if I mean
Even if you underthrow it and he has to fall down, it's okay. Like at least it's
even if
something.
yeah, I mean at least it's a big gain. You're down inside 20. That's a play that you expect if you're a high school football coach and your quarterback makes that throw and he comes off, you're chewing that kid's rump out, and that kid that kid's lucky if he gets a hamburger after the game for the way that he
Yeah.
plays. Regardless, and Jimmy Garoppolo's going home with over $1 million in his pocket for missing that throw. So I
Yeah.
understand it, and yeah, that was just I I'm not going to defend any of what Garoppolo did in that game against Tennessee because although I thought that he played decent at certain times and he did give the team a chance to win with the drive at the end, it shouldn't have been in that position, and he didn't play well. You give him credit for the plays that he did make, but you got to realize the stuff that he didn't. Going back to this weekend and 49ers Texans, we didn't do our predictions.
Okay. I think the 49ers are going to win this one. I'll go 27 to 17 49ers. I think
Yeah.
that they're going to control the clock. With that, they'll end up punching it in the end zone a few times. And the Texans just aren't going to have a lot of opportunities to have the ball. And so because of that, they're not going to put up a ton of points themselves. So I'll go 27-17 Niners.
Yeah, we have the same spread. I have the 49ers winning 26-16.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
right about the number that Houston's been giving up and scoring throughout
Yeah.
the year. I think the 49ers should be able to do that. 26. If you can put up 17 again, or that was 10 against a good Arizona team, but it should have been 17 plus. They really should have scored 23 points in that game, probably if they kick field goals when they should have, and so on and so forth. So I think they can score 26 on Houston if they just go out there and play the way that they're supposed to play, and I think they can hold them to 16. So I'm going to say 26-16, 49ers.
I think they're a 12.5 point favorite, that's a big spread in the NFL.
It is. But when you think about it, 12.5 points is about, what our spread is ourselves, right? In the NFL, usually the home team gets 3 points. We're both saying that they're going to win by 10. So,
Yeah.
If they're playing in Houston, it's probably a 9.5 point spread, just because of the way that it works out. So, yeah, no, it should be a really fun game. I'm excited to watch Trey Lance. Again, I want to see the improvement. I want to get an idea of that real quick. There was a couple of other things I want to talk about outside the 49ers, but let's take this question here from James. James, thank you very much for the donation. 49. James is a cool dude. He follows me over at the 49ers .pressdemocrat.com. He's always commenting over at the blog there, so he's a good dude. He says, how is Trey Lance's football career going to be different than Colin Kaepernick? The 2012-13 49ers and Shanahan 49ers play the same brand of football, and they really do, except for just different coaches. They do very, very physical style. I think he's talking when he says same brand. I think he's talking about physical, pound it,
Yeah.
those kind of things.
Yeah, and even Colin Kaepernick, you look at that time frame when Shanahan was rocking in Washington with RG3, right? Like a lot of similar things were being done there with what was done with Colin Kaepernick. But as far as the career, I mean, football career, Colin Kaepernick was really good. Like I think people forget just how dynamic he was at times. Just athletically, he was so gifted. And before he went vegan or whatever he did and lost a bunch of weight, he was physically dominating. And so I think I don't know if Trey Lance can dominate the same way Colin did in that sense, but I think that Trey Lance is a better thrower and probably student of the game than what Colin Kaepernick ended up becoming. There are quotes from Colin Kaepernick talking basically about that he doesn't put a lot of things into mechanics and things like that. And I think Trey's more of a perfectionist that way. Sometimes that could be a bad thing though too, right? Like that could play against you. But I think ultimately Trey Lance is a student of the game, and it's nothing but football for him. And so I think that's a big difference as well.
Yeah, and the way that I would go with this is, I think his career is going to be different because I think the difference between the two is that Trey Lance wants to make the plays from the pocket. If you watch his college film, he does run around, but a lot of times when he's running around are the designed runs. When he drops back to pass, it's usually bouncing around, and he's kind of working his way around the pocket, staying behind the line of scrimmage, really keeping his eyes down the field to make the throw, and then he doesn't run until late. And that's a difference from him between him and Colin Kaepernick. I think that's what's going to be if Trey Lance ends up having a longer, more successful career than Colin Kaepernick. If that's the way that this turns out, it's going to be because of his ability to play from the pocket. Because that's the one thing that Kaepernick, for all the good things that he did, especially in 12 and 13, he struggled from inside the pocket, and his team started to kind of learn how they needed to beat him. He couldn't adjust. And Lance is going to have, when he gets to that point, Lance is going to have to be able to adjust. And I think the adjustment is just working from the pocket, making the plays there, and only using his legs when he has to.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. So talking about the need to win from the pocket real quick, and we're going to jump off, and we talked about the 49ers, but I do want to take a couple minutes really quick. And I mentioned this to you, Jesse. I went and saw American Underdog on Tuesday night. And if you're an older football fan like myself or Jesse, if you've lived a little, it was what I told Jesse. I would highly suggest that you go to see this movie. I found it to be, it's a really good movie. You know, we all know the story. You already know how the movie's going to end, right? You know how the movie ends because Kurt Warner wins the Super Bowl and is at the end of the season with the Rams. So you know how the movie's going to end. During that time, I'm a 49er fan. You know, I was at that point, and I didn't have any appreciation for for that story. I didn't like Kurt Warner. I didn't like his wife. I didn't like anything about it because they were beating the 49ers and making the 49ers look bad on a regular basis. But then going back and watching that movie on Tuesday night brought a whole lot of respect for him as a person, for her as his wife, and what she went through as well as what he went through, and then what they went through together. You know, I've seen a lot of people talk about the movie and that it's going to be bad and things like that on Twitter, just different things, a lot of negative stuff, because it's accurate. If you're going to this movie because you want to see a football movie, you're going to be disappointed. If you're going to this movie because you want to see a movie and you want to see a story be told, you're going to enjoy it, because it's a love story, not meaning like love, like lovey-dovey between the two of them, just in terms of loving people. It's a love story that has football wrapped around it. And I will say this, if you're a 49er fan, you're definitely going to not want to miss the first 3 to 5 minutes of the movie. You're really going to want to make sure that you're in your seat for that part of it. And then it kind of plays out, and, you know, it wraps up at the end kind of talking about that again. But it's, if you can go see the movie, I would definitely suggest it. Michael Silver, who a lot of folks know if you're from the Bay Area, used to write for the Santa Rosa Press Democrat, Sports Illustrated, different places. It's based off of the book that he wrote on Kurt Warner. And so if you can get out and check that movie out, I would definitely go see it.
Yeah, Mike Silver. He retweeted me not too long ago. I gave him props for an interview he did with Colin Cowherd, and he retweeted it. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think for me, what kind of gave me trepidation about seeing it was it looked kind of cheesy, right? You're looking at the football scenes, you're like, oh, it doesn't even look real. But I'm glad that you said, because I saw previews later on. I was like, okay, I think it's less about football and more about like the ins and outs of how it got to that point. And so for me, I really do like the Kurt Warner story. It intrigues me. I remember it, very vividly around that time. And so for me, it is one of those things that he was hard not to root for, even though he was a Ram. Obviously, he just comes across like such a legit good guy, and it's hard not to root for people, right, over football players. So
yeah, and it hooked me with, like, yeah, the part at the beginning of the movie was got me, but there was just a lot about the movie that got me right away outside of the football stuff. If you've ever had to battle through things, it's a great movie to go see too. I mean, there's just so much about it. So yeah, it took me a few minutes after the movie before I walked out of the theater by myself, but it was really good. Go check it out. It's well worth the money to go get some popcorn and hang out and watch a good flick for a couple hours. So
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely go check it out.
Good.
I know you got to jump off real quick, Jesse. What's going on your channel?
I got nothing tonight on my channel. I saw him in the chat. I'm hopping on with Camper Report, Benjamin Camperman. He's one of the young kids in the game, and he's asking me to come on a show. So I'll be over there. Check him out. Camper Report with a K. And yeah, as far as my channel goes, guys, if you're not subscribed over there, please do so. Last Second Sports, we are like 15 away from 3,000. So go over there, give us some love. Maybe with your help, only you can prevent forest fires, and only you can get me over 3,000. So listen, with your help, maybe I can get over that tonight. That'd be fantastic.
There you go. There you go. And then real quick, just for as far as my own real quick spiel, I'm going to say first off, thanks to Jessie. I've seen people making comments on this shiny thing that's in front of me, but I was fortunate enough to get this really nice mic as one of the things that I've been wanting to do to upgrade my setup, and Jessie was making some upgrades on his own, and he gave me his old mic, and hopefully it sounds better than I've sounded before, and I appreciate that, Jessie. It was very thoughtful of you to ask me if I want this, so I appreciate that. And then last but not least, get yourselves over to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Check those articles out over there. Make it as one of your favorites on your browser bar so that you can get to it every day. There's always a new article that comes up on a daily basis. So check that out. Please subscribe to this channel as well, like and do all those fun things that you do over on the YouTube side. So I really appreciate everybody that joins. I know hopefully Jessie does too as well. He sometimes can be a little bit grumpy, especially when you start getting on him, but he's a pretty good guy most of the time.
I'm all right.
Yeah. No. So, thank you very much for joining. Like, subscribe, do all those fun things. Get to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Get over to Last Second Sports. Get over to Benjamin Camperman's site because he's going to be going on right now with Jessie. Thank you all for joining tonight on this Thursday. And we'll be back at you soon.
Happy New Year. See y'all in 2022. I hate that so much.
Hey, it is going to be 2022. And don't forget, I did write an article after the Titans game in which the title was Trey Lance will start for the 49ers, in 2022. I didn't think it was going to be January 2nd, 2022, but hey, I looked into my disco ball and got that one right. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye, guys.